Ooh, hey, how's it going? How's it going, everyone? Right off the bat, I apologize for the little bit of the low tech quality of this stream. I had some computer issues with the other computer, so unfortunately, we got to roll with this. But it is what it is. It's unfortunate, but we're gonna rock and roll anyway. So don't have the badass setup, so I'm kind of doing the low tech here. But yeah, how's it going, everyone? Nice to talk about this one right after it airs. So hey, what's up, X.EX, David D, what is up? Again, apologize for the low tech setup here. So, ooh, the gain is a little hot, Gary Mercado. I can turn it down. Sorry, using a different setup here than usual, so I apologize. Don't have the high tech setup. Kind of have to do it low tech. It's one of those weeks, but it is what it is. So hey, how's it going? So, ooh, man, quite the episode there for damn sure. It's yeah. I mean, I don't. Ooh, again, I don't even really know where to start. The theories regarding the timelines going in and out and kind of switching from the Breaking Bad timeline to the Better Call Saul timeline turned out to be true. And yeah, that teaser at their Nitro Rift, I wondered if they were going to do us when Vince Gilligan sort of said at the bronze statue unveiling that Walter White and Jesse Pinkman were in this episode. I was really wondering if the only sort of appearance of them was going to be not their faces, but just the sort of flashback to that scene right there from season 2 of Breaking Bad in the episode entitled Better Call Saul. I thought they were going to do it to us, but of course, way down, I believe in Act 3, we then finally get to see what the first iteration of Walter White and Jesse Pinkman appearing in this series actually was. So, yeah, that grave was creepy for sure at Scott Horwood. I have to agree, and the light fell over. Real high-tech setup here for sure, so gotta set that up right here. Yeah, not ideal by any stretch of the imagination. So we're rocking with what we're trying to we're rocking with what we got here. So yeah, Jonathan Barker, interesting episode for damn sure. And of course, just to sort of really jump into it here, the very sort of end of that episode, kind of juxtaposing the bad decision that Saul Goodman made at the very end of that episode to the in hindsight, the very bad decision that he made when he walked into the science department of J.P. Wynn High School back in what was that 2008, I believe. So yeah, kind of a very interesting sort of juxtaposition there in respect to Saul Goodman's decision making. And yes, at Nicholas Pardo, I did recognize Buzz from Home Alone, the first sort of mark that he scammed as a sort of him reverting back into a Saul Goodman persona. I definitely did notice that for sure. So yeah, at Tom Fody, Marion will be Jean's undoing. She is now very suspicious. Yeah, for damn sure. I mean, he kind of played his hand there, for sure. At Tom Fody, at Rena Rocha, thank you so much for the super chat. 10 out of 10 episode tonight. Ooh, man, it was quite the almost surreal, like I talked about a little bit in my stream yesterday, where we finally got to, see Breaking Bad reemerge into the storyline, and to kind of get right into it right off of the bat. I have to say that I really sort of like the filming, if you will, and the decision making to have the lights sort of really low in respect to Walter White and Jesse Pinkman's appearance. Because to tell you the truth, the aging of the actors and just the fact that they were wearing those ski masks that they wore when they kidnapped Saul in season 2 of Breaking Bad, I thought that sort of filming decision was very, very well done. I really enjoyed that scene for sure, where the light was really dimly lit. I definitely didn't think that the characters looked too old at all. To tell you the truth, I almost wondered if they were using some sort of de-aging technology. I was like, I had to sort of do a double take here. Am I watching The Irishman or Star Wars or something like that? But what an effing episode, Anton. Oh my gosh, at Dylan 2 times. Yeah, man. I mean, I would have to agree. I would have to agree for sure. I think I know what you're getting at there. I feel like that could be read 2 different ways at Dylan 2 times, but thank you so much for the super chat. I really appreciate it. So yeah, at Mike Ockhurts, I think the ski masks were a stroke of genius. And to tell you the truth, I also, again, I don't know how I'm going to exactly start this review. I'm going to kind of go all over the place here. It doesn't really seem like an episode where we can sort of just go bang, 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 because at the same time, the episode itself kind of jumped all over the place. But to tell you the truth, this episode made me dislike the recast of Jeff not as much as I did in the previous episode, if that makes any sense. So I can get into that for sure. At Cody Madman, thank you so much for the super chat, man. Really appreciate it. Had me at the edge of my seat. Great plot progression, fan service. Walt and Jessie look great, and I was freaking the hell out, stoned with my buddies, of course, surreal. Yeah, really appreciate the super chat there for sure. Yeah, I mean, I agree completely in respect to. I thought the Walter White and Jesse Pinkman scene was very well done from a filming perspective. Not even touching on the writing of the episode, but yeah, I thought the filming was absolutely great. The decision making, the lighting in the RV was on point, was absolutely perfect. I loved it. It definitely had me on the edge of my seat too when Saul was making that terrible decision to go back to that man's house to enact the scam, even though Jeff was saying to him in the cab, "Are you sure the barbiturates are even going to be still in effect? I don't even know how much of the water he drank. We gave it to him 3 hours ago." So yeah, I mean, I'm glad you enjoyed the episode in whatever state you were in, and yeah, I thought the fan service was great. I mean, I see what you're kind of saying there, a little bit of a loaded term, but I see what you're getting at there. I thought the Walter White and Jesse Pinkman scene was absolutely amazing at Cody Madman, and yeah, I was on the edge of my seat at the end of that episode for damn sure. So yeah, I mean, like I said, a lot to talk about here for damn sure, and I really appreciate the support, Cody Madman. Thank you so much. Trying to, yeah, add Dylan 2 times, meant it in the best possible way, 10 out of 10. I believe Jeff's storyline is getting much better. Yeah, me too, for damn sure, Dylan 2 times. Like I said, leading into this episode after the episode Nippy, like I said, I was open-minded but skeptical. But to tell you the truth, I'm feeling a lot better about the Jeff storyline. I am. It's like I said, I know Don Harvey would have been better, but again, the way it was written and the way they sort of brought him back, I definitely enjoyed it. This definitely seemed more like the Jeff that we first saw in 501 and Magic Man, someone who wanted to pull these scams. And when Saul said, when he visited his mom's house and said, get on the night shift, get some barbiturates, but he said but Jeff said to him, you told me we were done. And he basically said, we're getting back into it. These were the partner, as the episode description said, these were the partners who were escalating their business to new heights. And of course, Jeff said, oh, hell yeah. So yeah, I definitely like how it was done for sure. I still wish it was Don Harvey, but I really sort of like the full sort of continuation of the Jeff storyline for sure, Dylan 2 times. I like where it's going, and yeah, very sort of interesting writing here by Gene Takovic. I mean not by Gene Takovic, writing the story of Gene Takovic by the creators here at Dylan 2 times, where essentially he couldn't live as Saul. He couldn't live. Saul Goodman could not live as Gene Takovic anymore. He just couldn't do it. He had to just go back into the point in his life and revert to the personality that gave him the most happiness, if you will, when he was pulling these scams and when he was effectively Saul Goodman and Slippin' Jimmy. He effectively was dead inside. Just those scenes of him going back to work at the Cinnabon with just him watching the machine making the Cinnabon, just going through the monotony of it. I mean, probably just going through his head. Can I really do this for the rest of my life? However that is, I'm already dead. This is no way to live. So yeah, very interesting writing there for sure. And it seems like this is going to catch up with him, where when you see sort of Saul going back to that house and you're saying, what are you doing? You're making a terrible decision. Even the fact that he's scamming these people, it's not about the money by a damn stretch of the imagination. If we go back to that phone call that we got to see on November 12th at 3 p.m., where Francesca said, insinuated you took a lot of money with you. Saul Goodman with those diamonds, he does not need the money. It is absolutely not about the money. It's about the thrill and it's about the purpose. And he doesn't even really have a conceivable reason to get up in the morning besides to just sort of go about the motions and play the part as this sort of man in Omaha, Nebraska. There's no way to live. He's already dead inside. So it was at Dylan 2 times. We didn't hear that Kim conversation as well. That was something for sure. I was hoping we'd hear it. I even sort of like the literary device of you have the sort of semi trucks driving by making a lot of noise, so you really couldn't hear what Saul was saying to Kim whatsoever. But his mannerisms there of absolutely just slamming the phone and leaving in just leaving in disgust and just absolute anger was quite something to see for sure. And that's definitely not the end of the story by any stretch of the imagination. The Gene and Saul story. So. At Relax and Sleep, I'm not too sure. I mean, Francesca really insinuated that he took a lot of money with him in that phone call. That's something that I found, that's something that really stood out to me. So that's kind of what I sort of put 2 and 2 together. There's no way he's doing this for the money. I mean, they are making a lot of money by pulling these scams, by stealing these sort of, I guess, financial advisors' identities, if you will, and their credit card and banking information, and selling them to, I guess, people who, I guess, use people's stolen identities to rip them off. So they're kind of the third party people where they're just the sort of the middleman where the people who are actually stealing the identities, I guess, don't get traced back to how they were actually stolen in the first place. Again, I'm not an expert in identity theft, so don't quote me on any of this, but that's sort of the premise here. But yeah, I mean, just so quite the opening for sure. I mean, it was kind of cool. I was wondering what sort of I knew some storyline from Breaking Bad would be interjected into the plot of Better Call Saul that would encompass Walter White, Jesse Pinkman, and Saul Goodman. I wondered if it was going to be the poisoning of Brock, but yeah, it was really kind of cool to see a callback to that infamous episode from season 2 of Breaking Bad entitled Better Call Saul for damn sure. So at Christian Alejandro, thank you so much for the super chat. Gene became more addicted after Kim's phone call. Yeah, I definitely think there's a correlation there for sure at Christian Alejandro. That's for damn sure. I think that was all sort of part of his decision making there, where I think again we have absolutely no idea what Kim said to Saul. We can only speculate. But definitely was not a very good conversation by any stretch of the imagination. And it sounded just like a total rejecting of any overtures that Saul was maybe extending to Kim in any capacity. Very sort of eerie to even say how Francesca Kim called Francesca and asked about Saul. And it's so sort of eerie to just connect all the dots and put two and two together, where in Breaking Bad, Kim Wexler, for all intents and purposes, didn't exist to the fans. But of course, based on the backstory of Breaking Bad, we now know that Kim Wexler was an enormous part of Saul Goodman's life. So at Ronald, at Ronald Nash Jr., thank you so much for the super chats. Almost missed that there. The parallel of going all in with guy who has cancer, who he really should have avoided, stood out to me. That is a spot on analysis right there, Ronald Nash Jr., for damn sure. Again, that just adds another sort of layer of a nuance to the juxtaposition of the very bad decisions that Saul Goodman made by partnering with Walter White in hindsight, and with breaking into this guy's home to go about the plan, even though it's likely he's going to get arrested, I suppose. So I mean, maybe it seems that way if you saw the teaser at the very end of this episode with the cops rolling up. There was no dialogue. It was only a sort of eerie, dark, intense music, overlaid with two police officers from Omaha walking up to the house that Gene had smashed the window of because they ripped the tape down. So yeah, quite the parallels there for sure. And also, that conversation that he had with Mike in his office at Ronald Nash Jr., that's a huge component of this as well, in respect to Mike warning him how you want no part of this man. He's a loose cannon. He's an amateur. So yeah, I mean, quite the conversation there for sure. So, and the juxtaposition of both the men having cancer was definitely intentional for damn sure at Ronald Nash Jr. And thank you again so much for the super chat. Really appreciate it. At Nick Russ, thank you so much for the super chat. Don't get me wrong, it was great to see scenes in the Breaking Bad timeline, including Walt and Jesse, but what was the point other than just fan service? That is actually a very interesting question there, at Nick Russ, and also at Grays 174. I see the super chat as well. I'll get to that for sure. But yeah, that's definitely something I was thinking about for damn sure, in respect to what was the point of them showing this scene? What sort of new information did we learn from the scene? I see at Just Dan, thank you so much for the super chat. I will get to that as well. But yeah, it's a great question there. I mean, I can sort of kind of get into that for sure. I don't know if we learned sort of too much from that scene, in full honesty, at Nick Russ. I'm not too sure if we learned that much about I guess Breaking Bad that we didn't already know. I mean, I'd sort of have to, off the top of my head, we see the conversation that Saul had with Walt and Jesse after I guess he said, the way I see it, someone's going to prison. It's only a matter of who, and that's of course when the scene cuts off in Breaking Bad. But of course we then see them in the RV, and of course we sort of see everything percolating, if you will, for Saul Goodman when he I guess walks into that RV and he sort of puts two and two together and finds out right there in that moment that Walter White is Heisenberg. Because very interestingly, in the deleted scene, we saw his PI. Again, it wasn't described at the time, but it was implied with hindsight that it was Mike Ehrmantraut delivering him the high school yearbook. And at Kate Valentine, I see the super chat. I'll get to all the super chats for sure. But at Nick Russ, yeah, that's a damn sure. It definitely seemed like he found out right there in that moment that this man here who had kidnapped him was the infamous Heisenberg, who likely a lot of his clients who were street level users and dealers were talking about. He was an infamous heavy hitter, as Saul Goodman said himself about Heisenberg, the infamous blue meth, and he had finally found that man there. But again, I mean, maybe it's sort of displayed to us that deleted. I mean, I don't know. I guess it just sort of really re-emphasized just how much Saul was like the sort of fly into the bug zapper and was just so immersed with the temptation of what could be, I guess, achieved by him partnering with Walter White, where despite Mike Ehrmantraut's warnings and telling him you want no part of this, that he still, couldn't put it behind him, and he had to go about his sort of partnership with Walter White at Nick Russ. So yeah, that's a great question there. It's something to think about for sure. Again, in the grand scheme of things, I don't know if too much was revealed to us. It was great to also see Jessie ask about who's Lalo. You asked if Lalo sent you. Who's this Lalo? I never heard about him on the street. And then, of course, Saul says he's nobody. That was a very sort of interesting piece of dialogue there. So yeah, I mean, a lot of Easter eggs in respect to that sort of conversation at Nick Russ that Saul, Walt and Jessie had in the episode entitled, I believe it was Gliding Overall, when he dropped off the $5 million from him in the first place, and they always talked about how the RV always stalled and why didn't we get a new one. So a lot of Easter eggs in that scene. But yeah, at Nick Russ, I'm not too sure, about what sort of overt information was displayed to us in that Walter White and Jesse Pinkman scene, other than just sort of re-emphasizing to the nth degree of just how much the temptation was just percolating in Saul Goodman's mind the second he put two and two together, where he found out who these two people were. So yeah, that's sort of off the top of my head in respect to the point of Walt and Jessie appearing in this episode, at least the premise of the scenes we saw of them. So at Grays174, thank you so much for the super chat. Did you catch the it wasn't me, it was Ignacio line when Walt and Jessie took him out to the desert in Breaking Bad? Yes, I did. He definitely said that at the very beginning of the episode, right? That's what he said. And of course, as I talked about with Nick Russ's super chat, he also asked who's this Lalo. So kind of a very cool sort of, I guess, Easter egg callback, if you will, where these worlds are sort of totally coming together. They're converging in ways we had never seen before, at least not to this level at Grays174. So yes, I definitely did notice that for sure. And it was really sort of cool to sort of see the backstory of all of that. And again, I've talked about the entire sort of Lalo Salamanca storyline and how Mike Ehrmantraut fits into all of this. And even in this episode, Saul even mentions Gus Fring, the he who shall not be named. So again, at this point in time, again, it wasn't even, I guess, to tell you the truth, again, we don't exactly know when Saul first walked into his office in 608 it was 609 Fun and Games, and now we are clearly in the year 2008. So quite the time jump even from there. If we look at the sort of license plate tags, and at a Big Fresh Sauce, I see the super chat. I will absolutely get to that. So yeah, really kind of cool to see everything sort of put together. Very kind of cool to see the grand manipulations of the timeline where it appears we were in 05 in Fun and Games 609, and then in 611 we sort of fast forward to 2008. So yeah, kind of very sort of cool manipulations of the timeline here in this episode for sure. And yeah, really kind of cool to and again, you mentioned the Ignacio thing too. Yeah, it wasn't me, it was Ignacio. So Nacho Vargas sort of gets a shout out. Lalo too, with Saul asking about Lalo. So yeah, again, that's true. He said it wasn't me, it was Ignacio, but of course he asked about Lalo, and that was seen in Breaking Bad, but it wasn't, of course, seen in this episode. So definitely have to have quite the strong knowledge of the backstory of Breaking Bad for damn sure. Grays 174, if you want to get all of the sort of nitty gritty Easter eggs that are displayed to us in this episode. So Just Dan, thank you so much for the super chat, man. Really appreciate it. Can't really help but think Saul changed for the worst after that Kim call. Yes, absolutely, for damn sure. Going back to rob that cancer guy seemed out of character for Saul. Yeah, I mean, it really did. It did seem out of character for damn sure at Just Dan. Again, I really don't know what the sort of decision making there. I mean, to tell you the truth, when I saw that very last scene, the decision making there sort of seemed like a man who wanted to get caught. That's what it seemed like to me. It just seemed like Saul just kind of wanted to face the music at a certain point, where it was almost like he was in a metaphorical prison, if you will, just having to be this Gene Takovic character, just being this bland, sort of, boring person who has no real color or vigor in his life. He's going through the motions. He's just treading water. There's no real purpose or meaning for him in his life whatsoever. So yeah, that's sort of what I sort of took from it at the very end of this episode. It seemed like a man who wanted to get caught, someone who was really flying too close to the sun, where he almost, probably did want to get caught. And it's kind of weird, sort of almost a way where Kim Wexler maybe can come back in his life. Again, we have that sort of teaser that was displayed to us, just Dan, of Kim Wexler being sworn in, that was released over the midseason break. So you wonder how all that ties in. But yeah, it definitely seemed like a man who wanted to get caught for damn sure. And a little bit out of character, where he was definitely reverting back to Saul Goodman, but with a sort of a arrest wish, if you will. So really appreciate the super chat there at Just Dan. Thank you so much. At Kate Valentine, thank you so much for the super chat. I will get to all the super chats. I see them, absolutely. But he got meaner after that conversation with Kim. Yes, he did. Again, kind of to go along with what Just Dan said. That conversation with Kim Wexler absolutely had a deep effect on him. And like I said, it almost seems like he wants to get caught after that conversation, where I'm not too sure. Again, it's very cryptic at this moment. It's hard to sort of know what Saul Goodman is thinking, because we didn't know what happened in that conversation. There's no way of knowing what's going through his head at Kate Valentine. So yeah, his demeanor completely shifted after that conversation. That's for damn sure. And I wonder if we'll ever hear it. It definitely just seemed like a total rejection by Kim Wexler, where, after Francesca told him that, sorry, having a little bit of problem with the chat here, but yeah, after Francesca told him that Kim called, then he sort of put himself out there and tried to sort of extend that olive branch and sort of talk to Kim after not speaking to her in probably since 2004. He probably hadn't spoken to her in maybe 6 years. So yeah, and she was working for some sort of just very sort of generic company, some fishing company maybe, or something to that effect. So yeah, quite a lot of food for thought there, and we sort of need to know. I wonder if they will display to us that conversation at some point in time. That's a sort of $80 million question, if you will. So at Big Fresh Sauce, thank you so much for the super chat. You think the writers are trying to throw us off again with that transition from the grave to Gene lying in bed? Insane to think he might die. Yeah, again, I definitely think there's a sort of a maybe a very literal allegory or metaphor to Gene literally dying with the transition to that grave. But again, also I talked a little bit about how he seems dead inside, if you will, at Big Fresh Sauce. That's another sort of analogy that I'm maybe sort of reading into by the creators displaying that scene to us. So yeah, sort of, I think Gene is definitely already dead inside. He's sort of in that grave, if you will. He's sort of sitting around waiting to die, really. Like, I guess it's better than being in federal prison, I suppose. But yeah, very questionable decision-making here of someone who really was about to flee again after Jeff made him. But then after the sort of that conversation with Kim and everything that happened with Jeff in the previous episode, definitely seems like a man who wants to get caught for damn sure. So at Go Low A, thank you so much for the super chat. Why didn't we hear Kim? It was definitely intentional by the creators. Maybe we'll hear it at a different point in time. I mean, like the sort of comments are sort of insinuating here, sort of Saul's reaction to what happened sort of implies that conversation did not go well whatsoever. So again, I kind of talked about that a little bit previously in respect to his demeanor completely changing, as a lot of people are insinuating here. But yeah, maybe we will hear that Kim Wexler conversation, but it definitely seemed to be like a catalyst for Saul to really revert back into his Saul Goodman or Gene to revert back into his Saul Goodman persona. That's for damn sure. And at Go Low A, thank you so much for the super chat again. Really appreciate it. At Maximum Rock and Roll, thank you so much for the super chat, man. Really appreciate it. I took it that Gene was yelling at the man who answered the phone in Florida as if he wouldn't confirm that Kim works there, not yelling at Kim herself. Again, absolutely a possibility, Maximum Rock and Roll. We didn't hear really a lick of that conversation. Even the very loud semi-trucks were blasting by in order to really sort of muffle the conversation completely, where we could not hear anything. And that is a great sort of potential read into what was happening there. Absolutely. That absolutely could have been the case, that he wasn't talking to Kim himself. Or maybe he was saying some news about Kim that Saul didn't like. That's also absolutely a possibility at Maximum Rock and Roll. So great sort of perspective there for sure. And yeah, again, whatever happened in that conversation made sort of Saul begin to revert back to, or Gene, I guess, to begin to revert back to that Saul Goodman, Slip and Jimmy persona. But yeah, I do wonder if we are going to hear that conversation later in the future. I wonder. I mean, Kim is absolutely coming back in the fold. That's for absolute damn sure. I mean, just with everything, we can kind of all the writing on the wall. The sort of Kim and Saul Jean reunion is absolutely happening, but just wonder what sort of form that's going to take. And that conversation definitely left more questions than answers. That's for damn sure at Maximum Rock and Roll. At Mill M, thank you so much for the super chat. Like the episode, lots of Easter eggs, absolutely. 2, Gene Gene is Breaking Bad big time, absolutely. I feel it's not ending well. 3, the gas station in the intro is from Breaking Bad episode. Yeah, I did wonder that if that was the sort of same gas station that Jesse Pinkman sold that meth in. I believe. Oh man, I'm gonna get this wrong. I know I am. I believe that was in season 3 of Breaking Bad. The episode is escaping me. It definitely wasn't season 3, I believe. It definitely resembled the gas station where he sold where he traded the tenth of blue meth for the gallon of gas, and that was eventually where Hank Schrader was able to put 2 and 2 together to link Jesse Pinkman to the sale and manufacturing of blue meth. The gas station definitely seems similar. I don't know if it was the exact same gas station, but it looked. I don't know if it's been confirmed online, but that's immediately where my mind went to at Mill M for damn sure. And yeah, Gene is Breaking Bad. Absolutely. It was Gene sort of, Breaking Bad. And again, I also like the parallel for damn sure where the episode of Breaking Bad entitled Better Call Saul was the very first appearance of Saul Goodman's character. And of course, in a very nice sort of parallel, the episode entitled Breaking Bad in season 6 of Better Call Saul is the very first appearance of a Walter White and Jesse Pinkman in the series. So again, I really like the sort of analogies and the parallels of that title for sure. And yeah, a lot of Easter eggs. Again, I could go off on forever on all of them. Lalo, Ignacio being mentioned, even the gas station, and yeah, quite the Easter eggs for sure. I mean, the massager that Saul was using that we saw him use over the course of Breaking Bad. Again, I could go on and on if I'd have to take a moment to recall them all. But yeah, there are a ton of Easter eggs for damn sure at Mill M. And thank you again so much for the super chat. So yeah, and even at Wolfer, I even completely forgot. And speaking of Easter eggs, we kind of hear we heard the sort of a final fate of Huel, if we will. We know that Kubi is nowhere to be found. I guess he technically appeared. I hope this isn't the sort of Bill Burr, Patrick Kubi appearance where Francesca just mentions him on the phone. I'll be a little bit disappointed if that's the only appearance of Kubi we get in Better Call Saul, but that was another sort of Easter egg, the sort of Huel and Kubi callback. Even he mentioned Danny again. Is Danny Price? Maybe. I mean, it's possible. It's sounding like it's going to be end up open-ended to our interpretation. I don't know if we're going to get a definitive confirmation in these, surreal to say, final 2 episodes of this entire universe forever. So yeah, a lot of Easter eggs for damn sure at Mill M. So, and thank you again so much for the super chat. At Trish D, thank you so much for the super chat. Really appreciate it. I keep thinking he'd go to Suzanne Erickson tonight. They teased he'd go to Bill Oakley for his defense attorney. Yeah, again, that's definitely possible. But the only sort of problem I sort of initially come across with that is that this conversation about when he gave. So I guess he could go to Bill Oakley for his defense attorney in the right now, but I definitely don't. I don't know if he was talking about Bill Oakley back in 2010 in the episode entitled Quite a Ride, where he gave that lawyer the business card to Francesca and said, tell him Jimmy sent you, because Francesca told him right now in October of 2010, after all of the shit had already hit the fan, Trish D, and this is right when he learned that Bill Oakley was the defense attorney, that he switched sides. Kind of a funny joke there for sure, where Saul sort of misconstrued what Francesca was saying. But yeah, in the moment in Quite a Ride, I don't think he was talking about Bill Oakley just because of Francesca's dialogue in the scene, but yeah, maybe Oakley will be the defense attorney. I would like to see that. That would be quite the full circle at Trish D. I would really sort of like that. That would be something right there to see the former deputy director Oakley representing Gene Takovic in a court of law. That would be something there. And again, at the end of the day, I mean, while it's sort of, I guess I don't want to say it's schmuck bait, as I believe, I don't know if Vince Gilligan coined that term, or talked about that term, but and I see the other super chat. I'll get to that for sure, Trish D. But again, it sort of seems like Saul Goodman is going to get arrested here. But again, I mean, he's so sort of, conniving, if you will, that I mean, just off the top of my head, it just seems like Jimmy, aka Gene, aka Saul, can somehow get out of this very bad decision. But again, I don't know where it's sort of insinuating where the juxtaposition of him walking into JP Wynn with him breaking into a house of just 2 very bad decisions that he made, that he sort of got involved with 2 people with cancer. And you, of course, with Walter White, that ended up being his downfall. You wonder if this is going to sort of be the downfall of Gene Takovic, if that's sort of what they're insinuating here, because if not, then why else did they, I guess, show us this scene? So that's kind of the, again, the $80 million question here. So at Trish D, thank you again so much for the super chat. Really appreciate it. Bob Odenkirk told us we'd see a new iteration of Saul. Jimmy wouldn't do that to a cancer patient. He is setting up a defense stealing these identities. Yeah, that's sort of an interesting perspective there. If you're sort of saying, Bob, this is sort of even a newer iteration of Saul where he's sort of sinking even lower. If that's sort of what you're insinuating at Trish D. So yeah, that's kind of interesting there. And again, I did wonder when that sort of man told him that he had cancer. I wondered if that was even too much for Saul, and if Saul was going to call Jeff and say, "No, abort mission. We're not going to do this." But he said, you know, come what may, we're going to roll with this plan. And of course, Buddy, I guess he's Jeff's friend, if you will. The exact relationship hasn't been too well established. I think it's his friend, if I'm not mistaken. I don't think they are sort of blood kin related. But this was too much for Buddy, where he sort of had this personal human approach here with this man, where his own father had the exact same form of pancreatic cancer and was taking the exact same pills that his father was taking, and he just couldn't rip off this man, and this is why he took the duct tape off the door and didn't go through with the mission. So again, if you're sort of wondering if this is sort of a new level of low for Saul Goodman to kind of go I don't know, full Bill Cosby here, if you will, in respect to ripping off, these financial advisors here. So yeah, I mean, and you say he is setting up a defense, stealing these identities. So again, I wonder again, I'm not too sure what you're insinuating there. I mean, I think I know what you're sort of getting at there in respect to how this is part of a sort of greater plan for Saul Goodman, but I don't know. To me, it sort of just seems like for the thrill of it all. It really just seems like, as Walter White said, I was alive, I was good at it. I mean, he has probably millions of dollars in diamonds in his Band-Aid tin, which have still yet to be addressed. This clearly isn't about the money. So again, you wonder if there's sort of a maybe broader, more impactful meaning behind these stealing of identities other than just ripping off people for the thrill of it at Trish D. But yeah, it's can't wait to see what happens in the next episode. Really sort of the sort of the chickens coming home to roost of bad decision making in the Gene Takovic timeline being paralleled to the Breaking Bad timeline when he walked into JP Wynn High School. So at Eddie, thank you so much for the super chat, man. Really appreciate it. Do you see Kim being Saul's lawyer if he gets arrested? Yeah, I definitely see it. It definitely makes a lot of sense to me. I mean, we even have that teaser that was released during the mid-season break where we hear Kim Wexler being sworn in as a lawyer. But of course, if we go back to episode 609, Fun and Games, we know that Kim left the law. So if she was gonna sort of represent Gene Takovic after he gets arrested, and if that's sort of the long game here where he's trying to get, I guess Kim doesn't have to take the case though. So again, we really don't know what happened with that conversation at that payphone when he tried to talk to Kim. But yeah, it definitely makes sense because I go back to the sort of teaser of Kim being sworn in and what was the sort of broader overarching meaning of that, where we already see she left the law and it sort of makes sense that she would come back, and it's not going to be for sort of something insignificant in the overall storyline when we only have 2 episodes left. You would imagine for damn sure, Eddie, that I could see it for damn sure that Kim is going to be Saul's lawyer. But hey, having Deputy Director Oakley do it as well, that'd be pretty damn cool to see too, at Eddie for sure. So would love to see both those characters reemerge in the storyline somehow. I mean, it was really sort of cool to see sort of Deputy Director Oakley sort of, I don't know, steal, if you will. What is it? Great artist borrow, good artist borrow, great artist steal, kind of steal the Saul Goodman persona with that bus bench, if you will, kind of going full Saul Goodman after shit hit the fan for Saul. But yeah, I definitely see it at Eddie. And thank you again so much for the super chat, man. Really appreciate the support. At Nick Russ, thank you again so much for the super chat, man. Really appreciate it. We'll get to that. Sorry, the little bit of a lag here in the comments, but yeah. So Jimmy's moral compass is getting even more broken this episode. He isn't breaking bad; he's breaking worse. I like that. I like that sort of that piece of writing there for sure. what do you think this episode means thematically? Again, I think I kind of tried to touch on that a little bit in respect to even that transition of the grave being juxtaposed with Gene Takovic lying on his bed, where even if Saul isn't actually dead, he's a sort of a dead man walking, and he's absolutely dead inside. If that's sort of the thematic sort of approach of this episode, that was sort of my reading of it, where at this point he doesn't care about getting caught, where he cannot go on living like this. Just the idea and the concept of him living 2 or 3 or even 2 or 3 or maybe even 4 decades like this, just working as a manager at the Cinnabon in Omaha, just again keeping this alibi of being this working Joe person. And again, it's kind of a little bit sad, if you will, because I mean, there's nothing wrong in a sort of honest, living that he's making right there. But again, it wasn't sort of what he wanted to do with his life at Nick Russ. He was this person who wanted to have his face everywhere. He loved being this, a celebrity in Albuquerque, New Mexico. He loved having his face on bus benches, billboards, late night television commercials. He loved wearing the vibrant suits to stand out like a peacock. He loved all of that. That was his reason for being, what got him up in the morning every single day. It was his, it was his, I don't know, it was raison d'etre. Is that a French word? I'm not too sure. But yeah, it was his reason for being it. He was alive. He was good at it. And even though he escaped the sort of federal prosecution, it's sort of like, I can't keep doing this. I mean, I think that was sort of what you know that was sort of what Nippy was kind of foreshadowing before they sort of gave the full thematic display in this episode, how Saul is already dead inside, and he cannot. The thought of him doing this for 40 more years maybe is almost, well, 30, 40 years is almost a prison in and of itself. So that was sort of my approach. And yeah, he does even seem even worse than Breaking Bad for sure, where wow, he talked about the nuance, having a nuanced discussion of the virtues of child poisoning and all of that. I mean, he did do some sort of not great things, and again, I know a lot of people are wondering if we're going to sort of see that Brock backstory interjected into this episode as well. And again, you wonder because they did say that, didn't we were going to have 3 scenes of Walt and Jessie, one of them together and then one of them each separately in these final 2 episodes, I suppose. So again, I do wonder if we're going to maybe see a lot of the sort of open-ended aspects of the Breaking Bad storyline displayed to us at Nick Russ in these final 2 episodes. I wonder if the Brock storyline and sort of the step-by-step process and the sort of Saul Goodman decision making and where his head was at when he had to do that for Walter White, if that's going to be displayed to us in these final 2 episodes, just based on the timeline manipulation. So yeah, that's some food for thought for sure, Nick Russ. And yeah, he was didn't care about ripping off this cancer patient whatsoever. It was kind of interesting to see what the teaser was talking about. Now it was him saying, okay, it wasn't a woman's voice. Totally wrong about that. It was sort of the modulated Saul Goodman voice that I tried to I guess figure out what that teaser was about. Pretty damn hard, as as I've insinuated, damn near impossible to speculate on what's going to happen in these final 2 episodes. But yeah, it was quite striking to see where any sort of morality that Saul Goodman had, at least it came across that way. He just totally just didn't care about it at all. But again, at the same time, Nick Russ, maybe he wanted to get caught. So that is a big component of this story as well. So yeah, Justin Cruz has an interesting question. What do I think a Jesse Pinkman single scene will be? Again, I'm not too sure. That one's a little bit tougher. I do kind of like the theory about Walter White and Saul and sort of the Brock poisoning. That is a really big sort of open-ended component of the storyline at Justin Cruz that I think may be addressed on in these final 2 episodes. Again, I kind of like the way the story is being displayed with the sort of, having these flashbacks sort of relate to events that are happening in Gene Takovic's life. I definitely saw a lot of comments in my past live stream with that potentially being the case. So yeah, kind of like I like this timeline manipulation for sure. And I mean, like I said, I don't want to harp on it too long. I want to move forward. I don't want to, we can't change the past, but I mean, like I said, the fact that they didn't have the original OG Jeff after this episode, it makes me be upset by it less. Let's put it that way. So yeah, I really like the way it was written here for sure. So, and again, I wonder what's going to happen with Marion. That's for damn sure as well. Again, I talked about this a little bit in my live stream preview of the episode, and again, I don't want to. I hope I didn't misspeak or anything like that, but I kind of said that at this point through the first two episodes, she's come across as a little bit one-dimensional, if you will. I mean, a little bit naive and gullible. At least it seems that way. But of course, at the same time, I mean, she did have a very sharp wit. Absolutely, she was she was saying those one-liners in the grocery store. She had a very quick wit. But at the same time, I mean, she's kind of at this point in time, she's kind of fallen for the Saul Goodman slipping Jimmy ruse, if you will. So that's why I said she kind of came across as a little bit gullible and naive, but at the same time being, having that being very sharp and very perceptive. So we finally get to see, Marion sort of seeing Jean acting in this sort of a very different manner, being very abrupt and aggressive with a buddy in the with the dog, telling the dog to sort of shut up and get back in here, and not being the sort of very down to earth, very very humble, very out, like what's the term I'm looking for? Just very sort of down to earth and very just very sort of just happy go lucky and almost sort of like a leave it to Beaver. Oh, how are you doing? Oh, everything's so great. How he was kind of putting on a ruse for Marion. So her looking out the window there for damn sure is going to be interesting to see if she can finally put two and two together here. And I imagine, just based on everything Bob Odenkirk has said about her character, I think she will. I think she's too perceptive and has, sort of too quick of a wit to to not realize what she saw out there. And because at this point she comes across a little bit gullible and naive. I mean, obviously, because we know what Saul Goodman is like. It's by no fault of her own. I mean, Saul's just very good at manipulating people. He's a very good con man. We would all probably fall for that ruse as well, like all those guys in the bar are falling for it, where he just comes across this very, approachable, nice, guy, very, non-threatening, but of course, very manipulative at the same time. So I'm not blaming Marion. Like I said, I would probably fall for slipping Jimmy's ruse as well if it was presented to me. But yeah, I mean, I think the sort of sharp wit that she was displaying in the grocery store is definitely gonna, make her be able to put two and two together here. And again, at the same time, I mean, you wonder. I mean, Jean being arrested and sort of how Marion factors into the storyline. A lot more questions than answers after this very, very amazing episode. So, Just Dan, thank you so much for the super chat. I thought Jessie looked and sounded much older, but it was cool getting. But it was so cool getting to him and Walt on screen again. Anyway, yeah, he definitely did sound a little bit older, if you will. He definitely his voice sounded a little bit more, I guess, raspy and a little bit older. But again, I thought again, I think a lot of people, and rightfully so, after seeing El Camino with the sort of the bald cap and the very non-forgiving lighting, if you will, in respect to Walter White and Jesse Pinkman's appearance in El Camino. But I mean, this was very, very well done. I mean, all of the props and sort of shout. I mean, they don't need the shout out from me, but just very, very well done. I mean, I absolutely loved the low lighting, the way it was displayed. It really, I did not. I almost had to do a double take. It almost looked like they were using anti-aging technology, like in The Irishman. I had to do a double take. It was being done so well. So yeah, really kind of cool to see that. I was absolutely, the physical appearance of those characters exceeded my expectations, and it almost even makes up for the very jarring physical the very jarring physical error in continuity with the appearance of Jeff the cab driver. It almost makes up for that. So very, very well done for damn sure to see those characters again, and very well filmed. I loved seeing it on screen. It was very well done, even wearing the caps. I mean, who knows? I mean, these are actors at the end of the day. Their hairs had to be styled maybe a certain way for contractual obligations. For goodness sakes, Don Harvey couldn't even appear in this season. Neither could Laura Frazier. So, just, the fact that they wore those ski caps on their head to sort of cover up maybe any hair, lack of continuity. And the lighting was absolutely great. Like I said, I thought they were using anti-aging technology. But yeah, really well done at Just Dan, and I really enjoyed seeing it for damn sure. And thank you again so much for the super chat. Really appreciate it. At Tyler NorCal, Jeffy greater than sign OG Jeff. I wouldn't go that far, but maybe a sort of less than or equal to sign OG Jeff. I can maybe go there. I can maybe put that sort of equals thing underneath the sign there. I didn't pay too much attention in high school math, so maybe I'm not right on that one. But yeah, after the way the story was written here, it's amazing. I mean, again, it was so jarring to see it in Nippy, but after this episode, it's amazing. I couldn't believe how much more how much less it bothered me. I was really taken aback by all of it. So at Tyler NorCal. So yeah, quite the a little bit of a little bit of sort of redemption, if you will. Again, at the same time, there's no way you can convince me otherwise that it would have been better with Don Harvey. It just would have been. I mean, the two episodes have been done absolutely amazingly. There's been absolutely amazing attention to detail in terms of the writing and even the filming here. But like I said, there's no way you can convince me otherwise that it wouldn't. It just would have been better with Don Harvey. It would have been. But again, it's by no fault of the creators. Like I talked about in my previous live stream, that's the nature of television. So it is what it is. Yeah, I mean, again, at Chef Big Hat, I kind of see what you're saying there. I mean, I feel like I've made my point. I've made my opinions very well known in respect to OG Jeff. I mean, and I've picked no bones about it whatsoever. But it's again, this episode, I think they did the best they could to sort of diminish the impact of that. And I don't know, maybe I'm just sort of distracted by how much I enjoyed this episode, to tell you the truth. But it right now in the moment it impacts me less. So at Michael Curtis, Thomas Schnauz confirmed Danny is Daniel Wormald, and we will hear Kim call in the future. Again, I don't know. Did he confirm that on Twitter? Again, I wouldn't trust anything Thomas Schnauz says. I mean, I hope he's telling the truth here. But again, he's such a troll, as I talked about in a previous live stream, where someone asked him on Twitter, "Is the Francesca conversation going to be discussed in Better Call Saul season 6?" And he said in one line, "No." And of course, what is absolutely hilarious about that is that he was the one who wrote and directed the episode in which the conversation was mentioned. So of course he was absolutely trolling there. But yeah, I would love to see the sort of the Daniel Wormald sort of the theory come true. I mean, I've made a lot of videos on it in the past. I think fans would absolutely love that. Not having Daniel Wormald being Danny, who owns the laser tag, would I feel just be an unbelievable misstep for sure. And again, you wonder sort of how the timeline is going to be impacted, and if we're going to sort of see all of these sort of open-ended aspects of Breaking Bad intertwined in the Gene Takovic timeline. Just based on how this episode went, it definitely seems that way to me for sure. So, at Luke Duke, thank you so much for the super chat. Really appreciate it. Gene wanted to make and save money after calling Kim. Yeah, but again, I'm not too sure if it was about the money at Luke Duke. They definitely made a lot of money, as a buddy said to him when he wouldn't rip off the cancer patient. But again, that's the sort of $80 million question, to use the amount of money that Walter White buried in the desert in season 5 of Breaking Bad in the episode entitled "Buried." But yeah, that's sort of the question there. My reading of it is just not about the money, but maybe it is. But again, my sort of interpretation of it, it was more about the sort of thrill of it, and was more of about him being alive, like when he was Slippin' Jimmy and Saul Goodman, and not being literally, as the sort of metaphor of this Gene Takovic timeline, being in black and white. All of the color and all of the vibrance and all of the life is just stripped out of him. So yeah, they are making a lot of money for damn sure. And this is just something Saul's good at. I mean, that's something he can do, rip off people and make a lot of money. But as Francesca sort of said to him, he already has a lot of money. So yes, they are making money, but at the same time, it's I don't think it is about the money in the grand scheme of things at Luke Duke. So, and thank you again so much for the super chat. Really appreciate it. Yeah, Will K. Kim is definitely coming back into the storyline. Absolutely. I mean I mean, irrespective of what Thomas now says, absolutely. And again, I really hope that Danny is Price. I mean, that would just be, again, anything other than that would just be a horrendous missed opportunity in my opinion. So at Will K, Kim didn't talk. Yeah, it's definitely possible that he was not actually speaking to Kim. Maybe he got some news surrounding Kim, potentially, but maybe they, at the same time, maybe that conversation will be heard, as Thomas Schnauz apparently has said. So yeah, a lot to sort of a lot to think about heading into these final 2 episodes of this series forever. So yeah, and he was they did sort of mention Gus here at Mike 87 Kush at the very end of this episode. And again, it was very sort of a little bit jarring too, to sort of see Mike Ehrmantraut being this sort of private eye for Saul Goodman, and sort of dealing with all this sort of, it came across as very sort of seedy and low stakes. But we know, based on the backstory of Breaking Bad, that this was something that Mike Ehrmantraut was doing for Saul Goodman. But at the same time, Mike is such a noble and honorable character. He comes across that way. So it was a little bit surreal to sort of see him sort of, being his private eye for Saul Goodman and, spying on people who are accused their spouse of infidelity and things like that. So, but again, maybe he's doing it for his family. It's all about leaving money for Kaylee and for his daughter-in-law Stacy. So yeah, a little bit surreal there for sure. And I love this sort of a callback to He Who Shall Not Be Named, who he was definitely talking about Gus Fring, where again, I've sort of put two and two together here with everything that happened with Lalo and Mike's involvement, where it's very easy for Saul to just know that Mike is working for, a drug dealer as well, who's maybe a competitor of Lalo. So, we don't know exactly when Saul had that aha moment, but in the 2008, when that scene took place, he definitely knew about, Mike's other business. So, at Wolf Fleer. That's how you say the name, at Wolf Fleer. Thank you so much for the super chat. Really appreciate it. What if Kim is living with the vet Dr. Caldera in Florida? That would be something there. That would be something there for sure at Wolfer. I haven't thought too much about that, and it's a little bit hard to speculate on that when we haven't heard the conversation. So, kind of interesting how she was living in Florida for damn sure. My money was on Nebraska, as everyone said, where she was originally from, based on her dialogue in Breaking Bad when she was interviewing with Rich Schweigert. So yeah, that would be. Did Caldera say he was going to Florida? I don't know if he mentioned that in that episode when he when was that what episode was that? That was Black and Blue, I believe, if I'm not mistaken. I think it was Black and Blue. Yeah, with Caldera. Did he say he was going to Florida? Someone can correct me if I'm wrong there, but that's quite the theory there at Wolfleer for sure. And thank you so much for the super chat. Really, as Thomas now said, I really hope we get to see that conversation. That's for damn sure. Saul's reaction to that was definitely percolated my interest. That's for damn sure. At Steve Bob JD, thank you so much for the super chat. Really appreciate it. The episode was excellent. I ordered Cinnabon for delivery. Never had it before. Have you? Actually, to tell you the truth, I don't think I've ever had a Cinnabon. I've never had one. I don't know why. I just kind of never had one. Yeah, never had one. I don't know. I don't know if they're good or not. Frank seemed to like him for damn sure. The security guard in the episode entitled Nippy. But I think I'm probably going to have to try one at some point in my life, just based on the fact of it being such an integral sort of a plot detail in respect to the Better Call Saul as a story. So, sorry, I think that might be rain coming down. Hear it on the mic, but yeah, again, never had Cinnabon. I hope you enjoyed it. I think it's definitely sort of the advertising, the subliminal messaging and advertising definitely works, because the amount of people who have wanted Cinnabon after seeing it in Better Call Saul, it's amazing how advertising definitely works. So I guess we now know why people do it. So I'll definitely have to try it at some point at Steve Bob JD. I actually never had it in my life. That's absolute honest answer. I've never had a Cinnabon. I've had like a cinnamon roll before, but never the cinnamon, like the name brand Cinnabon, never before in my life. So yeah, at KT, that's a great question there. What's the significance of the intro change? That's a great question. I think I even saw, some people mention online how we've only had 10 episodes, and every single episode has had the exact same intro, and how over the 6 seasons, the intros have disintegrated over time. But, of course, last season we saw the sort of, I guess it was sort of taped over in that sort of VHS style, and we saw it in this episode again as well. Again, I'd have to go back and look at it again off the sort of the first look at it. But yeah, I mean, I definitely don't know what the sort of grander meaning behind it is. I don't even think they discussed it on the Insider podcast for 610. I was hoping to listen to it and hope they would discuss it, but they didn't really touch on the intro, if I'm not mistaken. So hopefully they discuss it here in this upcoming Insider podcast. But yeah, I could again, I know people have had their theories out there in respect to the sort of what is the meaning behind the sort of new intros and how the disintegration over the 6 seasons. But I would have to again, I haven't thought about it enough, to be honest, to give a more sort of thought out answer onto the meaning of them. So I mean, yeah, I'd have to sort of think about it before I gave a more sort of I guess structured sort of articulate answer in respect to the disintegration of the intros. Yeah, Kareem C. I talked about that a little bit earlier. Again, I really couldn't really speculate on what the sort of Jessie scene, the Jessie standalone scene is going to be, because apparently, if you hear the rumors out there, we're going to get a Walter White scene on its own, a Jesse Pinkman scene on its own, and we've already seen apparently the Walt and Jesse scene in this episode. But I speculated the Walter White scene may encompass the poisoning of Brock and Saul Goodman. That makes a lot of sense to me. Of course, that's just my theory off the top of my head. In respect to Jesse Pinkman, man, I just don't know. I haven't really thought about it enough. Again, just based on the way the timeline has been manipulated and how these sort of events in Breaking Bad are being intertwined with the Gene Takovic timeline, I would imagine it's going to surround the sort of open-ended aspect of the plot of Breaking Bad, impacting the sort of final sort of storyline of Gene Takovic somehow and Saul Goodman. So yeah, food for thought there for sure in respect to what's going to happen with Jesse Pinkman and his sort of standalone scene without Walter White in these final two episodes. At Love This Nation, you said Walter looks the same, but Jesse is out of place. Are you talking about the scene in the RV? I thought they did a great job. I mean, I thought that Jesse Pinkman, the way it was lit, he really sort of, it didn't sort of look like he was, 20 years older than his character is as the actor Aaron Paul is in real life. I thought it was very well done, if that's what you're talking about. So at Richie MC, in respect to Gus, yeah, we haven't seen Gus in the last two episodes. The last scene we've seen of him is that very infamous and notorious wine bar scene, which I discussed in a previous video. So yeah, I mean, you wonder how you would imagine that we're going to see Gus in these final two episodes. You'd hope so, but that would be something. I mean, I would imagine he would have to come back. That would be something. If the very last scene we see of Gus Fring is him at that wine bar, that would be something there for damn sure. If that's the sort of that's quite the move by the creators that they decide to do that. That was quite the ambiguous scene. I discussed that in a previous video, but yeah, that is a great question there for sure. You would imagine that would be quite the move. I hadn't even considered that. If that is the very last iteration of Gus Fring, it might be. I wonder because I think if we go back to a Paley Fest, and I believe I believe it was the user Adam was here posted the sort of behind the scenes video of it, and he kind of said the way Gus Fring used three words to sum up the story of season 6 of Better Call Saul, I believe, was personal, powerful, and profound. So you wonder if that is going to be the very last scene of Gus Fring in this episode with him in that wine bar. I mean, I'm kind of just speculating here. Maybe I'm being a little bit too conspiratorial, but that would be something if that was the time we see Gus Fring in this storyline. So yeah, that is some food for thought there for sure. So yeah, at Jebediah Gaming, did they de-age Jesse? I thought so. Like I said, I thought we were watching The Irishman, but I think it was just very well filmed. I hope they talk about that on the Insider Podcast for damn sure. And who knows, maybe Bryan Cranston and Aaron Paul will be on it. Who knows? But yeah, I'll definitely be very curious about the filming of those scenes for sure. So at Cybohan. I hope we don't see Gus again. Him, honestly, I like the wine scene. Yeah, I kind of, in hindsight, that's quite the sort of ending to Gus Fring's storyline, if you will. I mean, irrespective, that's sort of the ending of his storyline in the Better Call Saul timeline, which I think is very well done. But yeah, you wonder how he's going to be. I mean, they mentioned him here in this episode for sure with a he who shall not be named. But yeah, you do wonder how he's going to be impacted in the remaining two episodes of the season. So at March, anyone know how Francesca knew to call Saul at a payphone? Remember in Quite a Ride when Saul said to her, "Where are you going to be on November 11th at 3 p.m.?" And she says, "I'll be there, but if it doesn't ring on 3 on the dot, I'm out of here." And he says, "Don't worry, it's going to ring." And remember at 3:01, she thought about leaving. So yeah, that is a direct callback, March, to 405, season 4, episode 5, I believe. Quite a Ride. Of that flashback scene to the Breaking Bad timeline. So yeah, that was a callback there. So definitely got to know the story very well. You have to be able to. That was again the one scene in the Breaking Bad timeline we had seen prior to this season. So yeah, direct callback to there for sure. So kind of cool where Francesca's sort of giving Saul the lowdown there in that conversation where tell me what happened. Basically talking how Walter White, I guess, bought the farm. I mean, a euphemism for passing away. Skylar White got her deal. They found Pinkman's car down by the border. Again, the sort of misdirection in respect to the movie El Camino, kind of a nice El Camino Easter egg there. In respect to Jesse Pinkman's storyline, Huel is back in Louisiana because the DEA apparently held him on false pretenses, so he got off. and he's not going to be prosecuted, I assume, based on maybe some deals. So that's sort of a happy ending for Huel. We now know he did get out of that apartment, that sort of safe house. He's not still sitting there, as the meme goes. Rumor has it Huel's still sitting in that safe house. He's back in Louisiana. Kind of a happy ending. We heard Patrick Kuby as well. So again, I mean, I really hope we see Patrick Kuby. This series come on. I mean, we need to see Bill Burr. I've talked about it a lot in a couple of previous videos, but yeah, that would be. I really hope we see Bill Burr for damn sure. But yeah, at Marsh, it was a direct callback to a 405. So yeah, again, Thomas Schnau is a total troll where he said it wasn't going to be discussed, and of course, the episode he wrote and directed, they discussed the scene. So. But yeah, I mean, it was an unbelievable episode for damn sure, and my goodness, I'm kind of going back here and just looking over this again. I kind of jumped all over the place here in respect to this episode where it kind of did as well in this episode. I feel like I talked about sort of the big scenes here in respect to the phone call with Francesca, the sort of the teaser in the very beginning, which sort of completely set up the Walt and Jessie scenes to take place, the conversation with Kim, which basically led to Gene reverting back into a Saul Goodman persona. They pull these scams with Jeff the cab driver. We then, of course, see the infamous RV scene, and then reverts back to the Saul Goodman timeline. After that, the very sort of eerie juxtaposition of the grave to him lying in the bed. Just Dan, thank you so much for the super chat. Really appreciate it. How did Saul know where Kim was working and where to call? And also, what did you think of that scene with Mike and Saul? Yeah, two great questions there for sure. In respect to the first part, I would imagine that even though that Saul probably didn't talk to Kim Wexler in years, again, this is just all my own opinions off the top of my head here, but I would imagine that even though Saul probably did not converse with Kim Wexler in years, I would imagine that he still sort of kept tabs on her, if you will. I imagine maybe he sort of, maybe even asked Mike to maybe do some research on her online. Maybe it is sort of, 2008, 2009, 2010, but the internet still existed, even if it wasn't what it was right now. But I imagine he sort of kept tabs on her and sort of knew where she was, but would never actually call her. That was sort of maybe how he knew where she was. And yeah, that's sort of my opinion on all this, where he even was surprised to hear that Francesca even told him that Kim called her and asked about him, and that was maybe the sort of reason why he called her in the first place. And maybe if Francesca never told her that, he wouldn't have called her at all. So that's sort of my opinion, where he sort of kept tabs on her and was sort of it was the one that got away, if you will. Maybe I'm being a little bit too insincere there, but yeah, I think he definitely cared about Kim, but he was in a point in his life where he never actually would have called her, just based on how the relationship ended. That's sort of my opinion. And in respect to the sort of Mike and Saul conversation, again, really like that as well at Just Dan. And yeah, again, really kind of great to sort of, I've touched on it a little bit in respect to in 2008, when the sort of flash forward to, I think, when 05, when Fun and Games took place in respect to Saul Goodman's office, where Saul knows that Mike is working likely for a rival drug dealer to Lalo Salamanca or something to that effect. And yeah, I talked about it a little bit earlier too at Just Dan. I was kind of taken aback by just, Mike doing these sort of, sleazy kind of seedy PI things, where again, we know that he had that role. He was Saul Goodman's PI in the plot of Breaking Bad. But it was just kind of weird, where he has this sort of noble and nuanced and intricate backstory of being this very, noble person who wants to provide for his family. And I don't know, maybe that's why he's doing this in the end. I mean, it's just more money to leave for his granddaughter. Maybe that's the way he's sort of rationalizing all this. I'll spy on, cheating spouses, and I'll sort of, help Saul with his, small time, I guess, crime, side crime hustles, if you will. Because at the end of the day, it's for the greater good of helping my less fortunate granddaughter, who I love more than anything in the world. So yeah, very well done there for sure. I even kind of like the sunglasses, kind of a callback to the sunglasses that Mike wore in the very first scene we ever saw of him in season 2 of Breaking Bad. Oh my goodness gracious! In the final episode of Breaking Bad was Was it? Oh man, I'm gonna miss this. I'm gonna mess this up. Was it Phoenix? Someone can correct me if I'm wrong. Was the season 2 finale of Breaking Bad Phoenix? I hope it was. I hope I didn't totally just botch that. But yeah, kind of a very cool callback there as well. Again, with Mike being much, much older than he looked in that scene. I think the lighting was well done there as well. But yeah, that was just kind of my take on that scene. And it was definitely kind of cool to watch. Kind of great to see Mike Ehrmantraut back into the storyline for sure. So it was ABQ. It was ABQ. That's right. Yeah, I totally botched that. I think Phoenix was the penultimate, right? Was Phoenix the penultimate? I totally botched that. It was ABQ. Yeah, thank you for correcting me for that. Was Phoenix even the penultimate? Was Phoenix the one right before it where Jane died? Am I right on that? Or was I wrong there? Am I wrong about that? So Phoenix James dies. Yeah, Phoenix. It was right. He called him in ABQ. Yep, you're damn right. I messed that one. I damn gotta rebrush on my Breaking Bad title knowledge there. But I appreciate it. Thank you so much for everyone in the comments for damn sure. Everyone for listening. That Matt Joy, Saib Bahan, thank you so much. Fakad Games, Second Coming of Bass. Really appreciate that. Yeah, it was ABQ. It wasn't. I knew it wasn't Felina. That was kind of the Jeopardy answer there, where the time is up against the buzzer, but you got to give an answer anyway. Yeah, it was ABQ. So yeah, but again, great callback to that, where he was wearing the same sunglasses that he was wearing in ABQ when he approaches Jesse Pinkman outside of his apartment and says, "Saul Goodman sent me." So yeah, sorry, I see the super chat there. Sorry about that. At Ronald Nash Jr., thank you so much for the super chat. Really appreciate it. Genius writing, and worth noting that this was Gene's 50th birthday, same life event. Walt broke bad. Oh, really? Was it? Because again, I think you're right, because on that is a great point there at Ronald Nash Jr. Because because we saw his ID that he gave to the court, I guess, marriage clerk, or when he and Kim got married in season 5 of Better Call Saul, in the episode entitled JMM, and we see, I believe he was born in 1960, November 12th, 1960. So yes, this is November 12th, 2010. So yes, he's 50 years old, that Ronald Nash Jr. Mind blown emoji. My goodness, the parallels. My goodness gracious, the parallels and the sort of callbacks to Breaking Bad and the literary symbolism and the thematic symbolism here, second to none. My goodness, how has this show not won an Emmy? Again, I've talked about that in the past. I mean, it's just a judgment sport. It's just one person's judgment over the other. But I haven't even seen a lot of the shows that have been nominated, and I can't say what's better than what. But that's neither here nor there. I need to stop getting off on that tangent. I don't really pay attention to the Emmys, but my goodness gracious, that is a great call there. That is right. He was born in 1960 on that ID, I believe, he gave to the clerk at the Bernalino County Courthouse, where he broke bad on his 50th birthday, more or less like Walter White did. So yeah, I mean, I don't know if that was, again, he didn't necessarily break bad on his birthday, but that was sort of when he got that cancer diagnosis. And that's sort of what caused him to go on that ride along with Hank Schrader. But again, the sort of 50th birthday phone call with Kim Wexler allegedly at Ronald Nash Jr. is what causes Gene Takovic to break bad. So yeah, great parallel there for sure. So yeah, really appreciate that. Thank you so much for the super chat there, Ronald Nash Jr. Thank you so much for that. That is a great sort of pull there. I really appreciate that one. That totally, again, I need to sort of, I guess I didn't pay enough attention to the year that Saul Goodman was born on in that ID. So great pull there at Ronald Nash Jr. Really appreciate that one for sure. That is quite the sort of literary parallel that was absolutely not unintentional. So ooh, man. And again, I feel like after watching this episode, I almost feel a little bit bad after kind of making my opinions known about the OG Jeff recast. I know it was nobody's fault. It was not the creator's fault. It is what it is, the nature of television. I talked about it, in the past. I don't want to harp on it too much, but it is what it is. It's a damn shame. You would have wanted this to be the sort of A plus 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 instead of just the A plus plus, but it is what it is. But yeah, just unbelievable pull there at Ronald Nash Jr. That is a great pull there for sure. So Gene breaking bad at his 50th birthday, just like Walter White, more or less. The life changing event of the cancer, the inoperable stage 2 lung cancer diagnosis, to the phone call with his former wife Kim Wexler. So and so yeah, just to sort of I touched on that scene with the Walt and Jessie in the RV, Saul reverting to his back to his regular life. We see the conversation with Mike, which I touched on. We see him sort of embracing the Saul Goodman persona. He's having sex with the strippers and he's making all the money. And he finds the mark of the cancer patient who we think he maybe won't hit, but he decides to in the end. And of course, Buddy can't go through with it, but he does. Again, kind of an interesting piece of dialogue for damn sure in respect to how he's finding marks that are exploitable, that don't have wives and who are single and have lots of money, and he's spending lots and lots of time finding the right mark who are when they're passed out after they give them the drugs, going full Bill Cosby, as I talked about a little bit earlier. So no one else in the house could stumble upon them. He's spending a lot of time finding these marks, and who cares about this guy having cancer? He'll be dead soon anyway. Again, quite the sort of depths of Breaking Bad and morality there for damn sure. But yeah, and then Gene makes the very sort of questionable decision to break into that home, even though Jeff the cab driver said the barbiturates may have even worn off. And like I talked about a little bit earlier, and as some of the super chats sort of insinuated in respect to why was Gene doing this. And again, to me, it's like someone who wants to get caught. That's the sort of thematic sort of literary sort of a premise that I got from this episode. It's someone who is already dead on the inside, and someone who just can't go on like this anymore and wants to is either going to have to be alive like he once was, or or just kind of, he's already dead inside. So, and yeah, it's kind of interesting where he goes about this plan, even though it's not a good decision whatsoever. I mean, maybe this guy has a security system, and if Buddy had ripped him off, then maybe the plan would have probably went across, with flying colors. But of course, maybe Saul's stubbornness, again, like I said, maybe Saul wants to get caught. That's why he's going about this plan, and doing this very, rash decision, which is not, intelligent whatsoever in respect to even Jeff the cab driver saying, how do you know the barbiturates will even, still be effective? We gave it to him 3 hours ago. I don't know if he even drank the whole water bottle. So yeah, it's again, can't wait to see what happens next week for damn sure. So yeah, at Darren Z, I'm curious what he and Kim talked about that got him so angry. I am as well, and I think we will. As someone said, that Thomas now said, we are going to see that conversation apparently. So yeah, that's something I'm looking forward to for sure. And yeah, I mean, I can only speculate on what the exact words that were said to him by Kim Wexler. Couldn't even begin to speculate on it, but definitely that's sort of the sort of literary catalyst. Oh my goodness, Richie MC threw me off there. She had a kid. She was like, that's why I had a kid, and you're the father. That's why he reacted that way. That is, I'm not so sure about that. Maybe, I mean, I see what you did there, but that is, wow. That I hadn't even put two and two together there for sure. So, but yeah, that being the literary vessel by which he breaks bad, the symbolism is just unreal, as a Ronald Nash Jr. pointed out. So just unreal for sure. At Will K, it's actually interesting that you mentioned that, or vacuum again. Again, I may have missed the sort of beginning point of that conversation, but again, this sort of, I don't know if this is it's somewhat tertiarily related to what we saw in this episode. But I was actually going back and listening to the podcast for Magic Man 501, because I wanted to hear what the creators had to say about Don Harvey after the recast. And in that podcast, Vince Gilligan said something very interesting in respect to Mike's knowledge of Ed the Disappearer. And he basically said that Ed the Disappearer was sort of Saul Goodman's ace up the sleeve that even Mike Ehrmantraut did not know about. How, well, at least based on the writing, there's no way that Mike Ehrmantraut, based on what Vince Gilligan said in 501 and where his head is at, there's no way that Mike Ehrmantraut ever learned about Ed the Disappearer, because it's just too much of a sort of back pocket ace up the sleeve. And if he knew about Ed the Disappearer, all of the sort of storylines that existed over the course of Breaking Bad would have been impacted, where, Mike would have maybe even used them for him and his own family when sort of shit hit the fan for him. And when he would maybe tell his daughter-in-law and his granddaughter to use this service, and something to that effect. And also how it would have impacted, what Jesse Pinkman was doing when he was working for Gus Fring and trying to find him. So very sort of interesting to hear Vince Gilligan talk about that, about how Mike could never learn about Ed the Disappearer because it would have too much impacted the story of a Breaking Bad. And that was sort of the one piece of the Albuquerque criminal underworld that Saul Goodman had that Mike Ehrmantraut did not know about. So yeah, very sort of interesting to hear that perspective from Vince Gilligan. And again, how Ed the Disappearer will impact this sort of final two episodes, and how Mike and Gus will be impacted by that as well, was just very interesting to hear Vince Gilligan talk about that. So just kind of cool where, despite Mike's vast knowledge of the Albuquerque criminal underworld, there was the one sort of person that he did not know about. So, and that was the one thing that Saul had on him. Oh, real quick, just sort of a housekeeping thing here. In respect to the quality of the stream, I hope it's been okay. I hope it has been pretty clear and not been cutting out. Again, I'm not using my original setup, so I hope it's been pretty clear. I hope it hasn't been lagging. If it was, I hope someone had been would say it to me in the chat when it was, and I hope you weren't just being really nice and not telling me. But yeah, I hope the quality's been okay on the stream. So my connection's pretty good. I see a lot of people are liking it, so I hope the quality's good. So. I hope it hasn't been lagging. I had some issues when I used the setup before, but I tried to move some things around, so I hope everything's good in respect to the stream quality. So stream has been clear. Ronald Nash Jr. Really appreciate it, man. So yeah, really appreciate it. I tried to make it better for this one. Again, I didn't some computer problems with the main setup with the command station. Again, that thing is just coming back to bite me, but it is what it is. So again, it is what it is. It lagged briefly a couple times. Harry LaFontaine. I hope. Oh, okay. That happens sometimes. I apologize for that. I hope the quality, the picture quality's been okay though. So that's the sort of the big thing too. So at Mike 87 Kush has been good. Okay, thanks. Thank you. Appreciate it. So yeah, at Nuke Master, quite the name there. Yeah, Huel got justice. I did like that aspect of the storyline. I touched on that a little bit earlier. I liked how Huel kind of got his justice for sure. I don't know if justice is the right word, but Huel definitely had a happy ending for damn sure. So yeah, at Richie MC, it was kind of really cool to see the Easter eggs there too, where Francesca mentioned how all the nail salons are gone. All the vending machines. I probably called back to Ira and sort of his involvement with the vending machines, even though that he was also working for Vomino's Pest. The laser tag place as well. The feds got everything. Again, I'll have to go back and listen to that for sure. Did they mention Ira too as well in that conversation? I'll have to go back and listen to that. I will have to go. I only watched it once. I believe they mentioned Ira, but I wasn't too sure. Again, I kind of wondered how Vomino's Pest would maybe factor in the storyline as well. So yeah, again, I mean, we heard it there, but it would be really cool to kind of hear it in the sort of present day Breaking Bad timeline as well in respect to Ira's appearance. I was really hoping Vomino's Pest would appear in the Breaking Bad timeline, but if it doesn't, I mean, it is what it is. There's only 2 episodes left, but as someone said, Thomas Schnauz apparently confirmed that Danny is Price, so that would be pretty amazing. And like I talked about, how the sort of timelines are sort of being interjected into the Gene Takovic timeline, the Breaking Bad timeline. It is that is again, with the way that sort of has been displayed to us so far, it definitely seems as though that it definitely sounds as though that we're going to see more Breaking Bad scenes interjected in the Gene Takovic timeline. So at Haggard Hot Rod sounds like here was multiple nail salons too. Yeah, it's actually kind of interesting. I was going back and watching, I believe, season 3, or was it season 3 or season? Oh my goodness, I think it was definitely season 3 after Jessie got beat up, when Saul showed him the nail salon and told him about money laundering. And I definitely went back and wondered if that was the same nail salon as in Better Call Saul, but it definitely was not the same nail salon that Saul Goodman was living in. I mean, maybe it was intended to be so, but it definitely wasn't. And I think the sort of dialogue in that phone call kind of confirmed that, where that wasn't the same nail salon that Saul was trying to sell to Jesse Pinkman in that episode. But yeah, so there definitely were multiple nail salons that Saul Goodman had been laundering money through over the course of Breaking Bad. So and yeah, there was that sort of corporation too. Again, I'll have to go back and listen to it again. But the sort of shell corporation, I believe in the Cayman Islands or something to that effect, that was in Francesca's name. Again, I'll have to go back and listen to sort of the nitty gritty of that dialogue. But again, kind of very interesting to see where Saul stashed all of his money. But at the same time, as Francesca said to him, he still had a lot of money. And again, I think that piece of dialogue was very intentional. I really do. I think the fact that it sort of was reminding us that Saul Goodman was wealthy and he didn't have to do the scam for the money, I definitely think that was a main sort of premise of Saul Goodman's actions here, where yes, he was making money, but like I talked about, it was not just about the money. So I think that dialogue was intentional by Francesca for sure. So yeah, Zay Vettel. Yeah, apparently we're getting one more scene of Walt and one more scene of Jesse Pinkman individually, apart from each other. That is what the rumors have speculated. So yeah, I did it again. Again, I've talked about that a little bit in the past. You wonder if the sort of the resolution of Jimmy's fear of Lalo and whether or not he's ever going to learn that he is dead for sure. And actually, a very good point. It was actually raised to me, I believe, by Almeida's Army in a past live stream, where if we go back to the final episode of season 4 of Breaking Bad entitled Face Off, there's a great scene there where Jesse Pinkman is being held by, I believe, the Albuquerque Police Department for that statement that he made in respect to this resolution at Did It Again, where he made that statement to Andre about how maybe Brock had been poisoned with ricin, and where, of course, after he said this, the doctors, of course, had to call the police, and the police sort of detained Jesse Pinkman for mentioning this very rare illegal poison and how the FBI was going to come in on all this. And of course, when he finally called his lawyer, Saul Goodman, Saul, of course, again, great lines in that episode, in that scene. I could list them. If I ever, Christ, if I ever have anal polyps, I don't know what to name them. You two, referring to Walt and Jesse. But of course, he says to Jesse, "Tell me I did not poke my head up for anything. Tell me you have something." But because, of course, in the previous episode, Walt tried to, kill Gus Fring with the pipe bomb under his car, but he sort of has that sixth sense, as Walt's sort of alluding to, where he tells Jesse in the waiting room before the police detain him that there needs to be somewhere where I can see him, where he can't see me coming. And again, there's a point to all of this, but of course, when Saul goes to Jesse, he says to him, "Tell me I didn't poke up my head for anything." And of course, the very next scene, we see Saul stating to Walter White, "Casa Tranquila," and he says, "What's Casa Tranquila? It's an old folks' home." He says, "You'll know someone who lives there, Tio Salamanca," as Almeida's Army pointed out to me. So she made a really good point here, or he or she, again, I'm not too sure, Almeida's Army. He or she, Almeida's Army, made a very good point in respect to the fact that Saul is saying the name Salamanca. So Almeida's Army speculated Saul would know. There's no way, just based on the amount of fear that Saul Goodman had about Lalo Salamanca, that he would have went against him and sort of manipulated his uncle in any way if he knew he was still alive. So the point I'm trying to get at here, and it was actually a really good point, is that he said the name Salamanca, even though I don't think there's any other iteration of the name Salamanca other than that scene in the plot of Breaking Bad, other than that, if I'm not mistaken. But it's likely at some point in time between that scene in season 2 of Breaking Bad and that scene in season 4 of Breaking Bad that Saul likely learned the truth about Lalo Salamanca being dead for sure. So yeah, that's kind of an interesting point where there's likely going to be some. Again, I wonder if there's going to be some sort of conclusion to all of that, because that's a great scene right there where Almeida's Army pointed out that there's no way, just based on Saul's fear, that he would have went against Lalo Salamanca if he thought he was still alive. If during that scene when he's talking to Walter White that Lalo is still out there, there's no way that he's, just based on that fear and him even knowing that Kim Wexler is still alive, that he would have allowed Walter White to use him as a sort of pawn. So that was actually a really great point. So I do wonder if that piece of dialogue is going to maybe come back into these final 2 episodes. Again, there's only so much time left, and we don't know how the creators are going to use their very finite amount of screen time in these final 2 episodes. But yeah, that's a great point in respect to a sort of resolution on the fear of Lalo. It was kind of very cool to hear Jesse Pinkman say, "Who's Lalo?" A little bit surreal, where Jesse Pinkman is very well versed in the Albuquerque criminal underworld, and of course, he said, "I've never heard a name Lalo on the streets." He clearly knew who Tuco was, and he knew Crazy Eights, he knew those sort of people, but he never heard of Lalo. And that's kind of interesting. Again, I would chalk it up to sort of, the fact that Lalo died in 2004, and it's now 2008. So it's 4 years later. And, I guess the Albuquerque criminal underworld, time kind of, slips away. And, there'd really be no reason for Jesse to really know about him. But at the same time, though, Spooge did call Saul Salamanca's guy. But maybe it's sort of lost. Again, we can kind of chalk it up to Jesse Pinkman's lack of knowledge in the Albuquerque criminal underworld, where he kind of thinks that Tuco replaced Crazy Eight. But in reality that wasn't really the case, but that's not really an error in continuity. It's more about just Jesse Pinkman's lack of knowledge of the inner workings of the cartel, where we know that Crazy Eight really had very deep cartel ties. So yeah, just sort of food for thought there in respect to that. I would like to sort of see a resolution to Saul's fear of Lalo, where again, we don't know. Again, Mike sort of said that piece of dialogue where he's not coming back. And actually, interesting, I think I've even heard the Vivid Kiwi talk about this, where he sort of had, I think, a little bit of a problem in respect to that dialogue, where why didn't he just say, he's dead? I saw his body. Kind of saying, that's not, it's kind of saying, he's not coming back is not how actual people talk. I think I heard him on a stream talk about that. So yeah, kind of just interesting food for thought. Now I would like to sort of see the resolution of him. We don't know if and when he. I mean, based on the dialogue, he at some point in time learned that Lalo was actually dead, but of course he thought he was still alive in that scene in the desert. So yeah, just definitely some food for thought there in respect to that sort of open-ended piece of dialogue, and you wonder if the creators know about it and if they're going to touch on it. That's something I'm curious about for sure. So yeah, you know, uh, yeah, like I said, I think we're going to get a lot of the sort of open-ended storylines that we had that haven't been touched on, are going to be like Brock's poisoning, maybe like Saul finding out Lalo is dead, interjected within the Gene Takovic timeline in the plot of this final two episodes. So yeah, gonna be I'm really looking forward to it for damn sure. So this one, this episode, man, really sort of yeah, really sort of, really sort of lit my fire, to use a Doors reference, as Jesse Pinkman called the RV the Crystal Ship. And yeah, I think, if I'm not mistaken, I think the only time that Jesse mentioned that was in season 5 of Breaking Bad, when they were sort of trying to reboot again and cook again. Again, the episode escapes me. Um, I'm not sure. It might have been Madrigal. It might have been Madrigal where he said the Crystal Ship, and of course he called it the Crystal Ship again. A Doors reference to any Jim Morrison fans out there. But yeah, if I'm not mistaken, and again, I think Walt was kind of taken aback by the Crystal Ship. He's like, the Crystal Ship. He's like, yeah, that's what I called it. So. But again, he heard it here too. But of course, maybe he didn't sort of retain the information. So yeah, not to go too off on a tangent though. But yeah, great song at Relax and Sleep. Any Doors fans out there, very great song. So another kind of cool Easter egg for damn sure. Yeah, at Lewis A9, I miss Gus Fring. That's what at Lewis A9, I miss Gus Fring. Yeah, like I said, I talked about it a little bit earlier in respect to whether or not that scene in the wine bar, which I discussed in a previous video, is going to be the very last scene of him, and maybe it may not. So it's kind of food for thought. Very artistic, sort of a conclusion to a storyline, if that's the way they go. Very, very. I kind of like that ending. It's kind of weird. I like it, but it also kind of leaves more to the to be desired at the same time. So yeah, at Will K, Saul is 50 years old, because that phone call on November 12th that Francesca talked about, that we know about based on the dialogue of 504, and we also putting together, as Ronald Nash Jr. said, the license he gave to the clerk at the Albuquerque Bernalillo County Courthouse when he got married in JMM. It said he was born on November 12th, 1960. So Saul's 50th birthday was the day of that phone call. And that was the day he talked to Kim. And that's kind of when he broke bad, if you will. Kind of like when Walter White broke bad after he got the terminal lung cancer inoperable diagnosis on his 50th birthday. So really great. Again, Ronald Nash Jr., unbelievable. Great call there. Great call there for sure. Really great call there. That was definitely intentional by the creators. That's for damn sure. At Nick Russ, what were those cops saying in the preview for the next episode? Nothing. There was no dialogue. At least not that I saw in the TV copy. It was just some ominous music overlaid with the cops getting out of their car and walking towards the house that Saul apparently broke into. So no dialogue in this upcoming episode. None. At least not that I saw. I don't know. Maybe there was dialogue on AMC Plus, but on the TV copy there was no dialogue. Liam Kimberly. Kim ran off with Bogdan. Yeah, that's again. I guess the memes are already starting. Also with Kim maybe running off with Caldera the vet to Florida. So At Justin Cruz, do you think we'll see Gale? Yeah, I wonder. I wonder again. Gale would kind of be directly tied to the plot of Gus Fring, so we'd have to see Gus Fring again. Maybe again. You kind of wonder again. We know that the Super Lab gets built. I've kind of touched on this a little bit in the past, and how do we really need to know exactly how it got finished? We know it gets finished, and sort of the big sort of main climax of the storyline of Lalo Salamanca being dealt with, to use Gus Fring's words that he said in Magic Man, where that main thread is now neutralized and we know it eventually gets built. And as Gus Fring said, a lot of planning went into this. When Walt first visits that lab, I believe, again, oh man, it was the episode before Sunset, if I'm not mistaken. So I think, was it Green Light? No, it was the episode before Green Light. Man, my Breaking Bad title knowledge is not the best, but it was the episode when Walt first sees the super lab being fully built. Again, the equipment's not up yet in season 3 of Breaking Bad during that episode. But yeah, it was yeah, you wonder if we're gonna see the sort of, what sort of storylines do we need to see? Moss, it was Moss. Great call, Dan. It was Moss. Yep, it was Moss. I think one after it was one before Green, or no, one after. I'm not too sure. Maybe one, it was, or was it Green Light? I'm not too sure. But yeah, I think it was Moss. Yeah, it was Moss. So it was Moss. Yeah. But yeah, like I said, there's only so much amount of on-screen time left, and I've wondered, what sort of scenes do we need to see versus from the backstory of Breaking Bad versus the scenes that are kind of, we can kind of that are kind of implied, and we can kind of put two and two together. If you kind of have a very sort of great knowledge of the backstory of Breaking Bad, you can kind of put everything together. And it's kind of funny the way they're writing this. You really do have to know the story very well. There's a lot of callbacks to Breaking Bad. And even, I mean, to 405, I mean, you have to remember that conversation that Francesca had with Saul in the cold opening scene of that episode right before he flees with Ed disappears. So yeah, again, that's sort of the grand question that I have about what storylines are going to be left implied, and what stories will be displayed to us in these final 2 episodes. Ooh, and yeah, I mean, again, in sort of the grand overarching question, I just wonder how this sort of show is going to end. I really do. And it's really hard to end television shows. It really is. I feel like a lot of shows end in a way where a lot of fans don't like the ending, and I don't think that's basically the fault of the people creating it. I think it's just very hard to end television shows. I really do. I mean, The Sopranos ending was extremely polarizing. I know the Seinfeld ending was very polarizing, where Larry David himself said he's never going to even do a series finale anymore because of how polarizing it was, where he sort of painted the main characters as like bad people who deserve to go to prison. But when he ends Curb, he's just going to end it. But yeah, it's sort of very hard to end TV shows. And this is, again, to reference Bill Burr, of course. I don't know if there's any F is for Family fans out there, but that show just ended. Its final season was just released, and I thought the ending was actually really well done. I really liked how they ended that show. But the thing is, with that ending, was there were a lot of sort of open-ended storylines left when they ended that series. And I just sort of, Dexter's another one too. Yeah, the ending of Dexter. I know a lot of people who didn't like that as well. But yeah, I think that by nature you really can't tie a bow on everything. It just comes across as a little bit rushed. It comes across as a little bit unnecessary. I will, to tie a bow on every single little thing and have a good ending. So yeah, it's kind of hard to do both at the same time. I've noticed. I feel like it's really hard to end television shows. So I wonder how Better Call Saul as a series is going to end, and that's sort of the sort of the $80 million question of it all. So. And I definitely think, I mean, they're going to be open ended. The point I'm trying to get at here is there are going to be open ended aspects of Better Call Saul and Breaking Bad. They won't be able to tie a bow on everything. Um, it's I'm not too sure how it's going to end in the grand scheme of things. Like I said, like, in order to have you, it's impossible to tie a bow on every single storyline. And if you do, the story tends to get bogged down, and sort of, I feel like it's hard to do so. So again, I mean, like I said, they can't touch on everything from Gus Fring's past. They can't touch on every single, I guess, open-ended aspect of the plot of Breaking Bad. But again, I'm kind of curious to see what happens when all is said and done. So at UD Reviews, thank you so much for the super chat. How can I contact you for collab? That's actually kind of interesting you mentioned it. I'm probably gonna have to sort of think about wrapping up the stream here. It's actually already a Tuesday, but Yeah, again, before I sort of end it here, this week is actually pretty brutal for me in respect to my real life. And so yeah, and unfortunately, not unfortunately in the grand scheme of things, I'm actually very passionate about what I'm doing in my real life as well. But this week is really sort of coming to a head. The sort of, I have a lot of obligations this week, and up until Friday, it's actually quite a busy week for me. I mean, luckily this season, with season 6, I feel like I've been able to sort of put out the content as I have. I've really tried to been posting a lot in the last few weeks, but this is kind of a brutal week for me for damn sure. So I'll try to post this week as much as I can, all through the week. But this is, again, things just have kind of come. This is a brutal week for me in my real life, and a lot of things I'm doing in my life that I'm really passionate about, that I care about. But unfortunately, at UD Reviews, yeah, I can talk about that in the future for damn sure. But yeah, I can, yeah, I'll check you out on your channel for sure. But yeah, with that being said, I'm probably gonna have to end the stream here. It's already Tuesday, but yeah, really appreciate everyone for tuning in tonight. I really appreciate all of the super chats and the conversation. Again, really learned a lot. I mean, a shout out again to Ronald Nash Jr. with that 50-year-old Breaking Bad sort of parallel to Saul Goodman and Walter White. But yeah, really enjoyed this episode. Quite surreal to see Walter White and Jesse Pinkman appear for damn sure. Yeah, and just it's hard to believe we only have 2 episodes left in this entire universe, but it's going to be something, and I'm just going to live in the moment and really enjoy it. So yeah, again, thank you again for the conversation tonight. Really enjoyed the chat. Like I said, it's a busy week for me. I'm going to try to put out the content while I can, but it may be a little bit less than the past couple of weeks, but it is what it is. But yeah, really appreciate everyone for tuning in. If you're in the U.S. and it's you're not on the East Coast, enjoy the rest of your evening. If you're on the East Coast, it's already tomorrow. I hope you have a great day, and I'll see you guys around. Thank you so much for tuning in. It's been quite a ride, and we got 2 episodes left, so I'll see you guys around. Take it easy.